Welcome back to Lumion Central, and in today's video we will be taking a look at the best pathway for every sequence in Lord of the Mysteries. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos like this, and without further ado, let's get straight into it. At sequence 9, I'm going for Assassin from the Demonist pathway, and let me explain to you exactly why. First of all, let's talk about their abilities. They can conceal themselves in the dark and hide and be able to see everything in the dark. They can fall from tremendous heights such as the 6th story of a building and will have no effect on their body and be able to survive that perfectly fine. And they can deliver all their strength into one blow to assassinate their opponent. On top of this, their body gets changed and they get physical enhancements such as their speed, agility, and especially their nimbleness being extremely strong for sequence 9. This is why I think it's the best sequence 9, but Hunter pathway was the second choice. But let's move on to sequence 8. At sequence 8, I am going for Gladiator from the Twilight Giant pathway, and again, let me explain to you exactly why. Basically, sequence 8s aren't usually strong, so I might as well use this chance to upgrade my body as much as I can, and that is exactly what Gladiator does. Not only does it give me weapon proficiency and combat proficiency, so I can basically fight anyone at close quarters extremely well, but my body gets a huge change, especially to the strength, the durability, and endurance. So basically, everything physical that the sequence 9 was missing, I'm getting here in order to prepare me for the later sequences and more mystical abilities. But let's move on to sequence 7. Things start to get a bit crazy at sequence 7 Pyromaniac, so let me explain to you exactly why I choose this pathway once again. Basically, they gain full control over fire and flames and also explosions. Basically, I can delay an explosion, I create a huge area of effect explosion, I can create an explosion directly into an opponent, basically eviscerating them instantly, on top of being able to create weapons with my flames, being able to create armor with my flames, being able to teleport with my fire, and also gaining increased spirituality and also getting danger intuition. So just an overall, just an amazing sequence 7 in my opinion, and I just want to be able to use fire, so I think it's really cool. Let's move on to sequence 6. At sequence 6, I'm going to go for Polymyth from the White Tower pathway, and once again, let me explain to you exactly why. Basically, they can analyze and understand basically anything to do with Beyonders and their powers. Now, once they fully understand an opponent's Beyonder powers, they can attempt to imitate it and use it for themselves. Now, this is especially strong if you have allies, because if you understand your allies well enough, you can simply imitate their abilities and use it during battle. So I think it's a very strong sequence, not only for its ability to imitate, but also the fact that you can analyze and detect weaknesses in your opponent. Let's move on to sequence 5. Sequence 5, I am going to go for Shepherd from the Hangman pathway, and this is so self-explanatory because this is the only sequence 5 which can truly keep up with demigod level saints. And let me explain to you exactly why. Basically, when you defeat an opponent as a Shepherd, you can graze their soul and basically take away 3 of their Beyonder abilities and use them at any point for yourself. You can house up to 7 souls, so this means up to 21 Beyonder abilities that you can have. That is crazy because most pathways only give you a couple of abilities, so being able to house 21 different ones is absolutely insane to me. On top of them being able to graze demigod level soul and be able to use up to 3 demigod level abilities. It is so broken, with the only downside being a higher risk of corruption and losing control, but we can deal with that. Let's move on to sequence 4. Finally, we arrive at the demigod level, and I am going to choose sequence 4, Earl of the Fallen from the Black Emperor pathway, and again, let me explain to you exactly why. Basically, they gain 3 new abilities, that being Bestowment, Exploitation, and Magnify. Magnify is the important one that we're looking for, but before we get into it, let me explain to you the other 2. Bestowment just allows you to bestow negative feelings onto your opponents and basically helps them lose control, which is obviously beneficial for you, and Exploitation basically allows you to exploit natural laws of the world, such as being able to jump and then exploit the law that you're going to fall back down and be able to fly. So decent, but Magnify is broken, so let me explain it to you. I have a small injury on my arm and I'm facing a sequence 4 Earl of the Fallen. They can magnify that injury on my arm and make it into a massive one that completely renders it useless. Imagine you're the sequence 4 Earl of the Fallen and you deliver a relatively big wound on your opponent. You can magnify that wound and basically instantly kill your opponent. Now you can also magnify other Beyonder abilities that if you were a Shepherd at sequence 5 you grazed and used. You can magnify all of those 21 abilities that you got and make them insanely strong and make them have the capability to even hurt sequence 3s and hell, maybe even sequence 2s. That's how strong Magnify can be, on top of being able to raise the level of sealed artifacts such as grade 4, grade 3s into being able to hurt demigods. So just such a strong ability that will come in so useful, especially in combination with sequence 5 Shepherd, so that's why I'm choosing Earl of the Fallen. Let's move on to sequence 3. Now at sequence 3, I'm going to go for Demoness of Unaging from the Demonist pathway, and once again, let me explain to you exactly why. Basically, they can create mirror personas and they fuse with them. This means that when someone kills either themselves or their mirror persona, they can revive within the other and come back to life. Now in a moment of danger, they can create thousands of mirrors and create thousands of mirror personas, and even if one of them survives, they can come back to life, giving them extreme high survivability. On top of this, they can create a special mirror persona which they can hide with their extremely high anti-divination skills which they get at this sequence, and if all of their mirror personas and their true self dies, they can simply revive within that special mirror persona. On top of this, when the potion is fully digested, they can have 2 of those, and they have, of course, extremely high physical capabilities with extremely high speed, strength, agility, and extremely high nimbleness for a sequence 3. But let's move on to sequence 2. At sequence 2, I'm going to go for Planeswalker from the door pathway, and once again, let me explain to you exactly why. Basically, they have authority over movement in space, which means they can manipulate any of those to its fullest extent and to however they want. Basically, movement means I can move absolutely anyone, anywhere, and I am everywhere. This means I can fight 2 different battles at once on opposite sides of the earth and fight them to its fullest capacity, being able to use my full abilities. On top of this, I can basically create my spirit worms that are inside of me, my mythical creature form. I can put any of those outside of me, create them into me, and have them use my abilities. This is ridiculous. On top of this, they can also create sealing, which can seal opponents, and the sequence 2 angel will struggle to escape of. Let's not mention sequence 3 to 9 because they'll never escape that sealing or take thousands of years if they're at the demigod level. On top of this, they can also create anything to do with space, which means, for example, tearing apart space in a certain area and having the void itself be there. Basically, anyone that's within that specific space will die instantly. And they can also replicate different things, not only abilities but scenes itself, such as a scene of the, well, for example, the cosmos, project it onto Beyonder and have them lose control instantly, or replicate their abilities as the traditional method would be. So just such a busted sequence 2 in my opinion. But let's move on to sequence 1. At sequence 1, I'm going to go for Author from the Visionary Path, and we have a perfect example of this from Adam when he was a King of Angels. They basically gain 2 new abilities which go perfectly hand in hand. The first one being meta awareness. The more you know about them, the more they know about you. Whenever you think about them or whenever you speak about them, they will know. Now this goes perfectly with their second ability, which is of course prophecy writing. The more they know about you, the more accurate their stories will be and the higher chance that they will succeed. Of course, if you are on the demigod level, they will always succeed, and even if you are, you might never know that you were getting stories written about you, as everything will simply seem like a coincidence and your choice entirely. This is what makes it so strong and why I want to pick it. You're able to manipulate everything from the background and not even have to involve yourself in direct confrontations. On top of this, writing stories into existence seems like so much fun. For example, Adam can simply write, Lumion Central will advance to sequence 7 of the Demoness pathway, and I will never even know that he wrote that into existence. Let's move on to sequence 0. Now, I just want you to guess what I'm going to pick for sequence 0, but I'm sure you can because it is sequence 0 Fool. Now, their ability that they get, Fooling, is hands down the strongest ability in Lord of the Mysteries. So let me explain it to you. You can fool absolutely anything. History, time, fate, change, concealment, whatever you want, you can fool. For example, when Klein created at the sequence 2 level, Utopia, everyone knew that it was an existence that didn't belong in this world. It was a strange town and nobody really believed it was a real one. But if Klein created this at the sequence 0 level and fooled the world into believing Utopia was always part of the world, everyone would believe it. Even sequence 0 true deities would believe that Utopia always existed in the world. That is ridiculous. But the most common application of fooling is of course lowering your opponent's IQ, so much to the point where they can barely speak, let alone think of what abilities they want to use, etc. On top of this, they can control basically an infinite amount of marionettes. Their air cannons, all of that is extremely strong with the powers of multiple militaries. They have a divine kingdom of concealment, and they can summon historical void projections for an infinite amount of time. So just such an OP sequence 0, easily the strongest pathway as well in my opinion. And yeah, that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments. Let me know your full list, or maybe which sequence 0 or 1, which specific one you disagree with, which you would replace. And yeah, make sure you all have a nice day.